Welcome, boys. Okay, in this video, we are going to be replacing the brake fluid in our 2002 Ford Crown Vic. This procedure is going to work for pretty much any car, but we are specifically doing it on the Crown Vic. And it is going to be a brake bleeding procedure. I use the term bleeding because that's generally what you do if you have air in the system. In this case, we don't actually have air. We just have really dirty fluid, as you can see in this reservoir. But not just a reservoir, the entire brake system is dirty fluid. Only one line, the left rear, have I actually ever bled in this car, and that's because I had to replace the caliper. I didn't do it in the other three lines, as I couldn't get the bleeder valves off back in the day. I was running out of daylight, and I just didn't have the time to do it. So we're going to do that today. I'm going to show you the procedure. First thing you need to do is suck all this nasty fluid out of the reservoir first. And that's because when we bleed the brakes, we're going to be taking the fluid that's in the reservoir and it's going to be forced and flushed through the system. So you don't want to be taking the nasty fluid and forcing it through the system when you crack it open. You want to suck all the nasty fluid out first, and then that way you're putting clean fluid into the system. Okay, boys. And so we're going to use our little sucky tool and suck the dirty fluid out of the reservoir and then dump it. And as you can see, as we're sucking this out, it is completely black. So it looks like your kidneys have failed and you're now peeing out blood and internal organ tissue. So that's what you don't want to have, and that's why we don't want to just flush that into the system as we open the bleeder valves. So when we open the valves, we are going to start from the wheel furthest from this master cylinder. As you can see, the master cylinder is obviously right above the brake pedal on the driver's side, front left. So when we get to cracking open bleeder valves back there, it will be the right rear, front right, front left. Starting from the furthest from the master cylinder, working our way closest. And so just suck all this stuff out. And then once we can suck no more, I'll go ahead and fill her up with some nice, new, fresh, clean fluid. So let's do that right now. Okay, and so with the reservoir empty of our gross fluid, as you can see, this fluid's nice and clear, and that's what you want it to look like. So we're going to top off the reservoir here, and once it's completely full, we're going to go back to the back. And in this case, I'm not just bleeding the brakes and cracking open the bleeder valve and doing this. I'm actually going to replace the bleeder valves, and then I'm going to use some sort of silicone grease on the threads, and that way I don't have to worry about these things getting seized or rusted in there or otherwise locked up. So that's what you're about to see as we cut over to the back. Okay, boys, and we are now at the furthest away. This is what we're using, these Dorman brake bleeders. Brake bleeder valves, and so the brand spanking new. We are going to need to crack this one off, the old one, and it is going to be a 3/8 is what you need. Do not use a 10mm, though it will kind of fit. It is a little too loose, and you will strip your bleeder valve, so you don't want them problems. So 3/8 is what you use. This is the brake parts lubricant, the silicone grease we're going to be using on the threads of the new Dorman bleeder valves. All right, let's go ahead and break out our 3/8 and then get this bleeder valve cracked open and then off of here. Also do not forget to put something underneath of it, because once you crack this thing open, the brake fluid is going to run down on the ground. So if you don't want to dirty up your driveway or anything, go ahead and put some sort of catch pan underneath of it. So put the pan underneath of it. We're going to bust this thing open with the 3/8, and then we'll already have our pre-lubed Dorman to take its place. The new Dorman bleeder valves are also 3/8, so I've got that fastened on. We'll go ahead and wipe up the area, and then we'll go ahead and get to collecting the fluid. Okay, boys, now we're going to go ahead and do this one in real time. So what I have got done here is I've got the hose on the bleeder valve, and then it's attached to that reservoir we're using to suck the fluid out of the main brake fluid reservoir above the master cylinder. So what I'm doing back here is I have the bleeder valve closed. I am going to tell Katie to press on the brake. She's sitting in the seat. So she is going to press the brake pedal down until it's firm. So like, maybe 5 presses or however many it takes. When it gets firm, she's going to say, okay, hold. So that means she's holding her foot on the brake pedal. This is the 2-person brake method I'm using. So she says hold, she's holding and pressing pressure down, but it's not going to move down until I open it. So when she says hold, I crack open the bleeder valve, and you're going to see the fluid gush out and into that reservoir. Once it does that, the pedal's going to sink to the floor, and she's going to say floor or okay or some sort of signal to let me know that the pedal is now to the floor. At that point, she has to hold it to the floor. I'm going to close the bleeder valve back up, and then I give her the signal, closed. She then takes her foot off the pedal. It's going to go back up, and then she's going to pump it several times again until it gets firm. Rinse and repeat. She says hold while she's pressing and holding. I open the valve. The pedal sinks to the floor. She says floor. I then close the valve, and I say closed, and then she lifts her foot up. Rinse and repeat. You do that over and over and over again until you get all that gross black kidney failure water out. And then after that, it's probably going to turn to a more okay, so like the grossest it's going to look is like completely black, like your kidneys have failed and you're peeing blood. The next color that's going to come out is you need dialysis. The next color that's going to come out is you look extremely dehydrated, and then when it finally gets to, clear, like it looks new, like it did when we put it in the reservoir, that's when you're done. So now that you see what I'm doing and understand what we're doing on this end, I'll go ahead and speed up the rest of this bean footage, because it's just simply filling up the reservoir. Once it fills up, then I'm going to go dump it, and then we do this twice on each wheel with the exception of the left rear, because that fluid is still semi-clean from whenever I replaced the caliper. That line still has fairly decent fluid. It already comes out looking like the dialysis / dehydration, so once I fill up the little container once, that's good to go. And then of course the front driver is also the shortest distance between the master cylinder and the caliper, so that only takes 1 container as well. Everything, the other 2 sides, we're doing between 2 and 3. So, all right, you get the idea. You see what we're doing here. I'll go ahead and speed it up a little, and then you'll be able to show what Katie's doing on the inside. Okay, boys, and now real time, this is Katie on the inside, pumping the brake pedal. She's holding. I'm going to crack open the bleeder valve, and you're going to see the pedal sink. She says, okay, it's sunk, or floor, or whatever. I say it's closed. She pumps it again until firm. Lets me know. I open the bleeder valve, the pedal sinks to the floor. She tells me it's sunk. I advise that I've just closed the bleeder valve, and then she gets to pumping again. Rinse and repeat. Over and over again. And then once you do that enough until you fill up your container and the fluid is clear. Do make sure you stay on top of the reservoir to make sure you do not run the reservoir above the master cylinder dry, or you're going to suck a shitload of air, and then you're going to be doing this again until you get all the air out. So you'd be fine after each one of those small containers that I have fills up. Go and dump it, and then top off as necessary. Okay, and so you boys get the idea now. You should be able to do the rest by yourself. So it's the same procedure for every other wheel. So for those who only needed this, thanks for watching. And for the rest who come around for the 16-bit music, time-lapse, see you on the next wheel. Although I guess to be more precise, this will be a remastered 64-bit music from this point on. Okay, boys, and here we are done. This is the final bit of fluid we're taking out. As you can see, it just looks like a little bit of dirty piss. So once we get to this point, we're good. I'm going to go ahead and top off the reservoir to max, and then we're done. That's how you bleed the brakes and replace the bleeder valves on especially your 2002 Ford Crown Vic. But like I said earlier in the video, this procedure will pretty much apply to almost every other car. So, hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching, boys. Peace.